I wanted to elaborate a little bit more about Levon Helm. Because of all the unsung heroes of the music industry, he is one of the most criminally unrecognized by the mainstream. Levon Helm was different. This man lived and breathed for music. He grew up in Arkansas, not far away from the Mississippi River, stone's throw away from Tennessee. And he basically learned how to play music by sitting in with bands and learning as he went along. Later, he joined Ronnie Hawkins' band, The Hawks, and Levon had himself a good old time as a good-looking, talented 19-year-old touring around America. America had kind of moved on from rockabilly by this time, but he found an audience in Toronto, Canada. And all the little bands from around Southwest Ontario would travel up to Toronto to open for The Hawks. Robbie, Rick, Richard, and Garth joined the group. Eventually, they split from Ronnie and became Levon and The Hawks. Soon, they were introduced to Bob Dylan, who took them on tour, but before they went to Europe, Levon backed out. Later, of course, he would rejoin them after they'd moved into their big pink house and they started recording the basement tapes with Dylan, who was recovering from his famous motorcycle accident. One of the biggest areas of contention for the band was always who got the songwriting credits. After their first album, the songs were attributed almost exclusively to Robbie Robertson. The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down is credited only to Robbie, which to me is kind of the crux of this whole argument. That song would have been a totally different song without Levon Helm. It would be like if Ringo Starr was never given credit for the Beatles, or Keith Moon for The Who, The Last Waltz, as brilliant as it was. Organized by Robbie because he wanted to end the band. I have a suspicion about Robbie Robertson and his inferiority complex. He had become jealous of Levon, so he attached himself to Bob Dylan. Then Bob Dylan and Richard and Rick and Levon became really close during the recording of the basement tapes, and Robbie got jealous again. This is why I started to take what Robbie Robertson said with a grain of salt. Richard Manuel succumbed to his depression and his addiction in 1986, and he took his own life, and Robbie Robertson did not attend the funeral. Levon never forgave him for that. A couple years later, in 1993, the band were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Levon Helm did not attend the ceremony. Instead, he released his own memoir, This Wheel's on Fire, and it really makes you see his point of view. Robbie Robertson did a series of interviews over the next few years claiming that Levon was on drugs, and he was angry because he was struggling with financial issues, and Robbie just has no idea why Levon would be angry at him. It is wild. Rick died in his sleep in 1999, and Levon officially ended the band. A couple years later, he was diagnosed with cancer. Robbie claimed that he visited Levon in the hospital shortly before his death, but he was unconscious at the time of their meeting. He wrote his own book, and he released the documentary Once We're Brothers, always maintaining the same story that he really didn't get why Levon was so mad at him. After his death, Bob Dylan said of Levon Helm, "He was my bosom buddy friend to the end, one of the last true great spirits of my or any other generation."